50-100. 50-100. Welcome, everybody, to this week's live stream direct from AVA Studios. This is Joe.
And this is Zack.
But is it really?
Eh.
Because the Zack I know doesn't wear glasses.
I don't know. I'm like his evil twin.
So you're Chaz?
Sure.
Well, hello, Chaz. Well, thanks for joining us, Chaz. How are you?
Pleasure.
So
Great.
We have quite a few topics to discuss this week. Some of them around AMD, some of them around Intel. Maybe we'll bring up NVIDIA. You're just going to have to check. But we'll start with our first topic, which is AMD pushes to provide more efficient tech. By more efficient, we mean less power to similar powered CPUs of the power, denominated and divided by the power. So essentially what AMD is doing is they have this 25-20 mission, right? So they want to push to have 25% more efficiency in their chips by 2020, hence 25-20. What do you think of this move, Zach? Do you think AMD is going in the right direction, or do you kind of feel like that they're just beating a dead horse at this point?
Well, it's the direction that they have to go if they want to try and bring back the mobile market, which that seems like the entire reason behind it, to me at least, because their desktop efficiency, I think, is at a point where people don't have a problem with it. They don't go, oh, well, your AMD desktop chip's using too much power. So I think this is definitely so they can take back that mobile market share.
Got to take back the mobile market share, do you?
Oh, we do.
I mean, that's good. And Intel, with kind of their -U CPUs that are designed to consume less power, but also provide similar performance, they've come up short in a few use cases, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I feel like AMD's focus has always been, obviously, their APUs, but their ability to take what is already there and optimize it and improve on it further to the point to where it's a tiny little speck in the wind, but just as powerful as a normal, 14 nanometer chip.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think AMD tries to take more of a consistent approach. Like, let's just make this more efficient at close to desktop performance. Whereas Intel, their strategy with a lot of their laptop SKUs is just make it scale all over the place. Like, they have SKUs that scale all the way down to like 2 gigahertz, all the way up to 4.
Yeah, which is what's exciting to me the most, however, is that they're able to make the most out of what's already out there.
Yeah.
Their focus is on a better binning process, right? That's where Intel kind of capitalizes on the randomness of the bidding process to begin with. They reduce their overhead by not having a huge control over the bidding process, and that's where you'll get unlocked processors where some of them unlock great and some of them unlock not at all, or overclock not very much at all.
Right.
It's luck of the draw, and that's why those processors get away with being MSRP'd so low in some cases. And AMD is doing the opposite. They focus more on having a better binning process and making sure that bidding process churns the results that they need to provide the result.
Yeah, AMD has definitely always focused more on the binning process to create their product stack, whereas Intel
has not focused on the timming process at all.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. But no, Intel, for the most part, doesn't focus too much on the binning, unless if you're looking more at the higher end Xeons or limited edition chips such as the 8086 are binned.
Right. I kind of feel like the 8086, they didn't really know. I'm sure they knew what they were doing with it, but I feel like that the culmination of that was they started to let's see what this binning process is going to churn out, and like you have all of the CPUs just coming out on a line, and they're like, let's test that one and this one and this one and that one and this one. They're like, man, all these overclocked to 5 gigahertz. We got a lot of CPUs here that are churning out 5 gigahertz boost right out the door. There's going to be a lot of lucky people. And then here comes like vice president of like product quality. Are they? Limited edition. We'll never know. That all happens behind closed doors and in
right.
hazmat suits. So one can only wonder.
So moving on to our next topic, it's rumored that the 9700K from Intel is going to be able to clock up to 5.3 on air.
Hey, remember like the time 2 generations ago where they said that you could overclock the CPU to 5 gigahertz on air?
I do remember that, and that's why I'm definitely taking this with a grain of salt.
Maybe 2 grains.
It's several, a cup full.
The whole friggin' shaker.
I still find these leaks interesting. Like, while it may not be stable, they could have just thrown that on there, and like this could be representative of like, hey, it at least posted this, which is still some indication that there is an improvement there, because you can't really do that with the current chips. You can't just throw 5.3 and have it even boot.
No.
Not unless you're really lucky. I do find it interesting if you look at the air cooler that they're using. It's comparable to a Hyper 212.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it an Intel branded cooler?
No, it's some Chinese brand I've never heard of before.
That's the brand I was saying.
Perhaps.
Now, I wonder, given my Tim comment previously, I wonder if it's going to be the same old Tim that we know, or if it's going to be,
So
solder?
It's been going around that the higher end chips are supposed to be soldered.
Do you believe that though?
They were saying that about this current generation. So I'm hopeful, just based on my experience with overclocking these chips. I like really hope so, because it's not uncommon that we have to delid them if we're trying to get the most out of them.
Right, and you've heard there were a lot of reports of people previously that were destroying their chips, trying to break the IHS off of the PCB to figure out if it was soldered or not. I mean, at the end of the day, just throw this thing on liquid and you'll be able to tell if it's soldered or not.
Yep. Almost
Immediately. Granted, unless your standard TDP exceeds a certain level, then the gains aren't going to matter because you're increasing TDP, obviously. But that's going to be the telltale sign for me before I even bother breaking out a pre-made tool or a blade to get the IHS off and determine. Like I'm not even going to bother.
Yeah, Brooke has an image of the cooler that she can throw up for you guys to see.
Oh, yeah. Let's see this cooler.
It looks almost identical to Hyper 212.
It reminds me of a Thermalright cooler. Remember Thermalright?
I can't say that I do.
Thermalright, they were like some of the highest end manufactured CPU heatsinks in the industry. They had like a mid tier and a low tier, obviously. But I remember kind of like similar to what ProLimitek was doing for a while with their Mega Halims heatsink. They had some pretty beefy heatsinks, like to the point to where they really added to the way that the industry used to be, where like the bigger the better. Before LEDs and RGBs were a thing, it was like, man, look at my giant heatsink. I care about my PC. That was like Thermalright.
Yeah.
Like the 140 millimeter, like half-cut circular fans, where it was just like flat in the top and the bottom, but then super wide. And you're like, man, what form factor is that? But it just looks cool, But that's cool that they're starting to actually be more proactive about it. I just hope that it's real and not a farce.
I do too. But seeing as the air cooler is a base model air cooler, I guess you could call it. They were saying that the voltage, or I shouldn't say saying, there was a screenshot that showed the voltage at about 1.25. So if they were actually using this cooler with that, I mean, that's some indication to me that it's probably soldered, because the delta would be too high.
Yeah.
If it was not.
I mean, but still, I really hate to say it, but they have doctored things before or made things appear as what they were when they were not.
That's what makes it a rumor. You never know.
I know. Not to knock Intel. They do great things. They made some mistakes along the way, and I'm just simply reiterating some of those mistakes and what has happened. I just hope that they are not repeated mistakes, is all I'm saying. So we'll get to some questions real quick. Mancer Gamer on YouTube says, whatever happened to the ultimate tinning board that was supposed to come out by Intel rumors in 2015? I don't know. That's a great question. I kind of even forgot about that myself, and I wonder if that was intentionally swept under the rug.
I'm not familiar with that. What was the ultimate tinning board?
The ultimate tinning board, it was a tool basically to where you could re-tin your CPUs in a really easy manner, if memory serves correctly. It was also supposed to be, I think there was a line of boards that were supposed to come out for it as well to play into it. Again, it was, 3 years ago, and it was something that was rumored to come out and then never did, as far as I wanted. So, and then we have A-Dubs on YouTube that says, TFW, your 7700K won't break 4.7 without delayed. Yeah?
It's definitely an experience I've had with the chips when we were working with those.
Yeah. I mean, and even those processors before they released were rumored to be soldered.
Yeah, I feel like this is a rumor that's born more out of people's desires than what's actually going on.
I know. I wonder if Intel has a play in this too. If the whole point of it is to kind of draw this out as much as they can to build up the anticipation until they release it. I'm almost guaranteed Intel probably has their hands on processor technology that would likely make them kind of the lead in the competition between Intel and AMD, and they're holding on to it. That's the feeling I get. Like they have something that they could release that would just kind of like, oh, Threadripper, ha ha ha. I just think they haven't done anything with it yet, or maybe that's just the conspiracy theorist in me.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree just based on how they've panicked in reaction to some of the higher core count chips that AMD's released. It feels like to me that they're releasing what they have. But you may have a point with them holding back on the solder. They might be waiting to make that like a bigger deal than what it is now until like the mainstream would appreciate that more than just the enthusiasts.
Right. What if they had some sort of like die tech that they didn't even need an IHS, it was just the size of the die, and so you had direct contact and then the tin didn't even matter.
They used to do that way back in the day. I remember they would have you'd have your 4 little dots around the CPU, and you'd have to be very careful as you put the cooler on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why. What if they have some new tech to where they make it a little more rugged, to where you don't have to worry about cracking the die from too much pressure, or if they work with kind of like what Threadripper has, that has that tool that you use specifically to install it. What if they provide some sort of tool that allows you to make sure that you don't over tighten it and doesn't crack it? And if you don't have that lined up, there's an idea for you, Intel. It's not copyrighted, so you can steal it from me, but we'll know where that idea came from. Won't we? So, onward from Intel and back onto AMD. AMD revives Athlon! Woo! For those of you that were too young to remember, Athlon was one of their leading chips back in the day, as was Intel to their Pentium and, the other stuff that I really don't care to mention. But the AMD Athlon CPUs, they went all the way up to the X2s, to the Core 2 Duos, all the way until Phenom, which was their triple and then their quad core. Now what they're doing differently though, is they're reviving it to be a 2-core variant. So it's gonna have 2 cores, 4 threads. And it's an AMD APU, surprise. And clocked at 3.2 gigahertz. To me, the moment I started to read about this, I felt like that this was going to be a great budget PC chip.
Yeah.
That's what AMD is saying it's going to be. It's going to be a budget gaming chip or just like a performance gaming chip. They did a couple of benchmarks for the APU in itself without considering a dedicated graphics card. And they did pretty okay. It was like an average of 70 frames per second on games that were running at 720p.
Right.
I want to know where this chip was when the Wii came out, because it could have used it.
Yeah.
But nothing.
This is definitely the kind of hardware you see in consoles.
It is. It's a console-worthy chip. I agree.
The thing I wonder about, though, is can they get the price point on this low enough for people to be interested? Because we're moving into an era where, you're seeing the 4 and 6 core chips, they just keep going down and down in price.
Right.
Like, is that ultra budget market like still there, or are they gonna perhaps aim this more towards things that are already put together, like you said, the Wii?
See, the thing is, when Intel already has 2-core variants that are like around like $120 that perform very well for gaming, AMD is going to have to compete up against that in a big way. Like, make this a $60 processor and you'll sell these all day, every day. Oh, and according to the wonderful researcher Brooke, the Athlon 200GE is priced at $55. So look at that! Under $60. These things will sell.
If you compare it with a cheap enough motherboard, which I'm sure the motherboards for these processors will be pretty cheap.
Now when I get the request for a gaming PC for $300, I actually might be able to do that.
There's lights at the end of the tunnel.
I try. I try so hard when I get those requests from people. Like, I want a gaming PC. I want it to play all of the World of Warcraft DLCs. And I'm like, no problem, man. What's your budget? $400.
It's rough.
Well,
it's like we like to help you best we can, but sometimes the parts just don't exist.
You okay, $400? Do you already own a graphics card? Are you going to install it after you receive it? I hope so. No, okay. Well, I can try to see where I can cut corners. I can install your motherboard in like a cardboard box. We can secure it and ship it. If that's okay with you, I'm sorry to do my best. Really, to anybody out there that feels like it's reasonable to get a gaming PC to $300 to $400, it is. It is if you're not considering brand new sealed in the box products, or if you're looking at like open box stuff or refurbs, like you can make it work for you. Trust me. The problem is with companies like us, like we refuse to use open box or new in the box or sealed, unsealed box stuff. So technically everything we use, like we open it from the seal to obviously build your PC.
Right.
But we're not going to use anything that's factory refurbished. We're not going to use anything that's open box or looks like that it's even been used. I mean, we'll use tray stuff. We'll use tray products, which are OEM, because we are an OEM. Sure, those technically don't come in a box. They come in a tray, but it's a factory-approved tray. There's a lot of things you can do to cut corners to build yourself a gaming PC for $300 to $400.
Yeah, it's just difficult as a company, because if we start throwing used parts out there, then, well, so it's going to be a support nightmare, and the customer's just going to be like, what the heck? Why is my stuff not working right?
Dude, it's awful. It's awful. And I mean, the closest we get to that is we get people that will like send in their PCs, either purchase from us or not, and then we'll upgrade on that. Like maybe they want us to reuse a case. Yeah. Maybe they really love their, circa 2008 blue lit fans, but also have orange, green, and red LEDs around the rim of the fan.
Why not cathodes? It's 2008.
Because you need an inverter. Yeah, dude, I saw one of those today, by the way. Somebody came out to me and they're like, what is this? I felt so old. I'm like, man, they were everywhere when I first started working for AVADirect. It was 2008.
Back in the day when we used soda bottles for water cooling, we had these bad boys to light them up.
Back in the day when we didn't have reservoirs, we would just plug a cucumber into the tubes, and the moisture generated from the cucumber was enough to provide moisture. Or back in the day when you used to be able to buy like a refrigerant unit and you'd put it in your PC that would just expel cold temperatures inside of the PC, so you didn't need to liquid cool everything. It just chilled your PC. I'm not going to name who actually did that and failed remarkably at offering that, but that was a thing for a while, apparently. But anyways, my whole point being, after I've rambled on and on about the way to cut corners to afford $304 gaming PCs, with products like that at $55 MSRP, it makes it real easy for you to not have to cut corners at all.
Yeah.
And that excites me.
Yeah, I was definitely wondering, but now that we know it's $55, there's definitely possibilities for use.
Now people would actually believe you if you're like, I'm trying to build a gaming PC. Well, what are you doing to earn that money? I'm cutting lawns. Well, you'll have it in no time then. Before you're like, well, there's one memory stick. Keep going, Johnny. Anyways, what do we got next?
We have a question from BS. He was asking if
Hi, BS.
Should wait for the next gen of CPU or go ahead and get the 8700K.
Depends. I mean, how patient are you?
Right.
Because every time you wait, you could just keep waiting for the next gen, whatever.
And then the other question would be, is the 8700K do everything you want it to do? Because if the product that already exists does what you need it to, then you don't really need to wait.
No, because at the end of the day, you got to remember, you get an 8700K today. Years down the line, when you're ready to upgrade, you'll get the next latest thing. I mean, literally, unless like the next Intel generation of CPUs will not only play games for you, but also clean your room, detail your car, and give you a massage when you need it.
Yeah.
It's a chip, man. Especially if you're using it for gaming. Yeah. CPUs at best maybe improve what? 5 to 8% in gaming performance? I mean, and a board can
only
make that
very specific games, like say you're playing Battlefield, for example, CPU heavy, but
the first Tomb Raider was extremely CPU heavy when it came out.
Right. But it's just a handful of games that are CPU heavy. It's not a ton of them. So it
don't matter.
Depends on use case. Depends on if it's doing what you need it to.
Don't matter. You put a processor in your computer. It does a thing. You play video games and you do a thing. And then at the end of the day, you have a PC either way. So. Yeah.
Based on the level of rumors, though, I mean, we're not going to be waiting too terribly longer for these chips. So,
what we could read,
depends. Yeah, we don't actually have any inside knowledge on the official release date. So.
We have absolutely no inside knowledge.
Right. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Nope. I got some bookshelves behind me,
full of knowledge with my Lamborghini.
Full of knowledge in my Lamborghini, but we don't have that knowledge. So what can you do?
All right.
Should we talk about NVIDIA for a bit?
Sure.
Okay. What's going on with NVIDIA? Oh, hey Mike, how's it going, man? Glad for you to join us. Good to have you along. If you have any questions, let us know. If you want to make comments, let us know. If you want to make fun of either one of us, let us know.
We're easy targets.
I've been an easy target my whole life. I just roll with it. It's whatever. Do what I want. So we have here that NVIDIA plans to keep Pascal around for a little while longer, kind of a lot longer, kind of maybe these should be all gone in allocation. Oh wait, mining.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. So according to reports, and these are reports, NVIDIA will continue to keep Pascal cards on the shelves all the way through December of this year. Needed to specify that for obvious reasons. But wouldn't be surprised if it was December of next year.
You never know with all the how the mining just went.
Maybe they should mine themselves a better way to sell their products. Is there a knowledge mine that NVIDIA could go to? And you're just, hard working on products, all live long day. Oh, Pascal. There's another Pascal, and another, and another. I'll just put that on the shelf where it sits there and gathers dust until the end of time.
I would also be interested to see that in addition to these remaining on the shelves for a while, if they're also repurposing any of these chips for their new product lineup.
Yeah.
We've seen this a lot from AMD, but AMD's not the only one. NVIDIA has done it with the 680 to the 770 before.
This is true. Yeah, they did it for a while. When you have an architecture that has just been so refined and to a great degree, you're going to keep it around for a while. But here's where my reservations start, Zach. If you're so gung-ho about a new card that's coming out and the architecture and the kinds of performance gains and the leaps and bounds of the technology, why would you want to hold on to previous tech just for a little bit longer?
It's usually the budget range, and it's like we said, mining just took a dump. They've got all these chips lying around. They got to do something with them.
Do you think though, budget range, sure, but do you think that like pricing for Pascal products are going to drop down enough to where the people that have been waiting are going to go, you know what, I'm okay with Pascal performance. I'll wait a little bit longer.
I think so, just based on how high they've made their new RTX pricing brackets. There's room.
I mean, but they're not that high. They're not that high though. Like, you know, you can get a 2070 for like what, 480? Just about.
I mean, they've definitely.
There are people that paid that for
the notch, though.
There's people that paid that for 1070s when the mining boom happened.
This is true.
You know, so
However,
I mean,
I was not one of them.
No,
I'm somewhat stingy with computer hardware.
I was lucky to have obtained my card before that happened.
Same.
So I am okay. But still, it's just if you have confidence in your product, why have a contingency? That's like the people that have PCs for a long time and then they get a new PC, a new architecture. Maybe they had like a basic 4-core processor-based PC, and now they're going for a dual Xeon. And then dual Xeon's a whole other animal and a whole other operating system. But they decide they're going to hold on to that 4-core just in case. Now, anytime you do something like that, that typically implies that you don't have complete confidence in whatever it is you're moving to, right?
I can agree with that.
That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Like, why hold on to your old product line for a little bit longer? Unless, of course, this is just a move for them to sell something that, you know, couldn't sell fast enough because of demand. But it just doesn't feel right to me. I don't know why. I say the word contingency more than once because it feels like a contingency. Or, I mean, there's the possibility there could be a Turing refresh in the works. So maybe when they say that they're going to be continuing to offer Pascal cards, maybe it's because they're going to release these first batch of Turing and then they're going to have kind of a rebadge or a refresh next year. We don't know.
It definitely feels like they're doing something different with it. So they're somewhat separate in their targets. Like the Pascal is more towards the mainstream gamer, where the Turing is a little more specialized.
A-Dubs had stated they got all them DAs laying around still. Yeah, and they are doing that already, you're right.
Probably somewhere in the quantity of 500,000,
yeah.
if I had to guess.
Probably. And Arudo M says, can't they just put Pascal chips into laptops and limit their power draw with BIOS? Yes, they can, and people were doing that already.
Yep.
People were modifying the hell out of Pascal chips in mobile platforms because they were able to do that. Because of the way that the performance scales with power draw, you get away with doing that.
Yep.
I mean, there were a few times we would get people that wanted quiet notebooks, and we would even do that here every now and then if we had to. Zach actually had a few notebooks I know we worked on where they were like, hey, this is going to be in a classroom setting. They don't want to hear the fan kick up at all, and they're not going to game on it. They want it because of whatever other features are in the notebook. So we would have to modify the fan curve and profile, but also the power draw to basically undervolt it and underclock it. Works great.
That's the cool thing about newer technology in general, not just NVIDIA, is a lot of them are very compliant to you cutting out their power.
Yes.
Like there's, from the factory, like all companies, they give it more juice than what it needs just to prevent failure. And when you can test a system individually, you can definitely lower that down a lot.
I wish that we had more time to test those things individually. You can do a lot of funky stuff with it. Like I used to flash the BIOS on my cards before Pascal. Mm-hmm. I never used software to overclock. I've always used the flash tool, the VBIOS flash tool. And you just create like different BIOS versions and then you can flash it on, right? That's what I always did. And then when Pascal came out, they made it near impossible to do it. So you couldn't modify a VBIOS and flash it anymore, which was disheartening. But then I stopped doing it. I wish there was more we could do with that as a system integrator. I wish that companies like NVIDIA and AMD gave us tools to be able to do more stuff like that more officially.
Right.
In an official capacity.
Because all of the tools are just kind of thrown together by some guys that just huddled around and were like, I feel like screwing with this. They're not official by any means.
Right.
And they're pretty risky. I've actually ruined a 7950 flashing it before it's sitting up on my shelf at home.
Oh, were you by chance trying to flash the 7950 to pretend it was a 7970?
I don't want to talk about it.
I knew people that did it, and they're like, I have 7970 performance. Oh, did you upgrade? No, I flashed the BIOS. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, 7950 is just lots cores.
Sometimes it does so badly that you can't get it back. So.
And then you have companies like EVGA that come out with cards that are dual BIOS, and you wonder why.
I love dual BIOS cards just for that reason. So it's like, hey, this is my free ticket to screw with this.
Right, and then you screw up one BIOS, and you're like, okay, no, I'm done.
Yep.
I have learned my lesson. Anyways, similar to par with NVIDIA's going-ons, how did Metro Exodus do on one of the new cards, Zach? Please tell us, inform us how great this new ray tracing technology is so far.
Pretty terrible. So the demos look like they're running about 40 FPS at 1080p with, you know, max settings. I mean, at least they're max settings, but holy crap.
Holy smokes! The cards are on fire!
Right, I understand it's pre-release, but wow.
I understand you guys have a lot to do, but
it's like this is not even close to where it needs to be. So
this situation is like looking at a bottle of liquor and you're like, man, that looks fantastic, and then you pull the shot back and you just it looked a lot smoother than it actually felt. Come on, man. 20 Ti should be doing better than this. Right. Especially the way that when they had the keynote speech and they were all like, ray tracing, the future. It makes processing easier. But let me translate that to what's actually happening. Ray tracing. We have cards that handle ray tracing to make it easier, but they don't handle it. And they can't be on 1080p.
It's worth pointing out, though, that it looks like Metro has pretty much all of the NVIDIA like out-of-the-box features, you know, GameWorks and whatnot, RTX Hairworks physics. So
I should just call these cards the 2080 Ti 1080ps. Because, you know, they're operating in resolutions that are like almost possibly 2 generations behind.
You know, I have a hunch that it's something similar to what happened with The Witcher 3, where the hair tessellation's 32 times. Like, maybe they got something goofy like that going on with the ray tracing.
Brooks got a good point. Pick and choose which NVIDIA feature you want, because I can only do one at 60 frames per second. Not all of them. Do you want the ray, or do you want the tracing?
Do you want the burger or do you want the bun?
I want both. Cool. 30 frames a second. Or maybe what they'll do is that all of these developers will come out with settings that's just like, hey, you can either have all the graphics at 30 frames a second or let's make it cel shaded for 60 frames a second. But I want realism. Cool. Let's just slow down the frames halfway and you can deal with it.
If we make your textures and whatnot look like mud, you can handle the ray tracing.
They just need game ready drivers.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, you're not wrong, but
maybe.
What the clock's ticking. These cards are coming out in like 2 weeks. So unless anybody can pull a miracle out of their butt, I don't see how the 40 frames per second is going to translate from 1080p to even 2K.
Even though that's doubled, this is at 1080p. Like a flagship card should be running 1080p at like 200 frames per second. So, like, I'm accustomed to seeing optimization at about like half of where it needs to be before something's released. So, based on previous experience, that's not good enough.
I am at a loss for words. I don't know. Maybe if you turn off Hairworks, maybe this is like a conspiracy theory. Perhaps maybe it is global espionage for NVIDIA technology, and there's somebody in there that works for AMD that's like, ah, ha, ha, ha. And then new AMD cards are going to come out, and it's going to be like, I can see the headline now. New AMD architecture runs all NVIDIA ray tracing technology at 120 frames per second at 4K. People running around at the NVIDIA office. Papers flying everywhere. I can see it now. Really. Rudo says, sad thing is some people expect they will get ray tracing in next-gen consoles. Lol. Yeah, it'll be broke sore.
I don't see how. I really don't.
We reject your sarcasm.
Like, it's from...
And raise you additional sarcasm!
Just based on the price point to get this ray tracing stuff on PC, I don't think we're going to see it in consoles anytime soon.
My rant made my face fuzzy. Thanks, NVIDIA. I mean, really, thank you. As a system builder, NVIDIA's support is actually great. We're going to push their products because they're great products. They're reliable.
Right.
NVIDIA creates reliable products. But this, you can't cover this up. You can't. You know, and AVADirect is not the kind of company to sit here and go, don't worry about that 1080p 40 frames per second nonsense. Buy the cards. Just buy it. Just buy it. Do you really want to die not owning ray tracing technologies?
Okay, Tom's Hardware.
You can call me Tom in the like hardware. See, we're not going to do that because that would be lying.
Right.
And that's not what we do.
I do hope to see a miracle, but it's like I said, I don't know.
I want to know what ray tracing is. Just show me performance. Anyways, we're going to move on to some AVA news. Hello, banners. In case some of you didn't notice, we partnered with a video studio, a professional suite of people who record video. Their name is Skyview Studios. They're actually our neighbors over yonder. And I know you can't see where I'm pointing, so I'm going to get uncomfortably close to Zach. They're over here, right over there, just right there. And we partnered with them to provide a system that is a one-of-a-kind, crazy, insane liquid-cooled build with hardline tubes.
Yeah.
We called it the Relentless Defender system because that is where the system went. Relentless Defender, well, it's a clothing line. It's a company down in Texas, and what they do is they sell a line of clothing that is geared for and to appeal to people who are and were in law enforcement. And we're going to show you a photo of that system now. Woo! Now you can see that the Spartan logo, well, they call it, it's their Spartan helmet logo. That is the Relentless Defender logo that we had put on the tempered glass in the front of the case. And there's a couple of other shots we took too. Our partners, which I want to thank again, at ASUS, and our partners at AlphaCool provided any ASUS related and any AlphaCool related hardware that was in that bill, which is basically everything that's liquid cooling in that system is AlphaCool.
Yep.
Anything, the graphics card, the motherboard are ASUS. If the ASUS would have had power supplies, if they would have had memory, if they would have made a friggin' case, we would have used that too. Trust me. ASUS and AlphaCool were on board immediately when we told them where the system was going to kind of continue my explanation. Relentless Defender is a clothing line-based company in Texas, and they make these clothes for and geared to law enforcement, officers, retirees, whatever. The owner of the company was in law enforcement as well. And so a large portion of his proceeds, and I mean close to like 98.9% of his proceeds that he makes off of this company go back into the community and law enforcement.
Yep. In
any way that he can.
It's definitely really cool.
Yeah, John, who is the CEO of Skyview Studios, which we worked with, he was kind of telling me a story that they started shooting commercials for Relentless Defender like 3 years ago, right? When they were just getting started. Guy lived in just like a basic house that you would to raise your kids. Nothing extravagant, but comfortable. He owns that same house. and he nets millions of dollars a year that he just pumps right back out into the community. So just kind of getting a picture of the kind of character that this guy was, and what he does, and the fact that he stands for something that's great. When that, you know, in a day and age where people could stand for really a lot worse, if you think about everything that's going on. We were all in at that point. Asus was, AlphaCool was. So again, I want to thank Asus. I want to thank AlphaCool. I want to thank Skyview Studios for giving us the opportunity to be involved in something that was just so righteous and so wholesome. And we really hope we get more opportunities like this in the future. And yes, A-dubs, you are allowed to know how much this beast costs. Retail, you're probably looking at about $5K, I would say. But we did have a desire to replicate this build if people were interested. So if you are, we can replicate it. I don't know so much about being able to use the Relentless Defender logo, right. But we could always reach out to Relentless Defender to see if that's something that they'd have a problem with. If we generated enough interest in these systems, we also thought about doing kind of like a partial proceeds build for this, so we'd have a front page, and we could donate some of our proceeds to Relentless Defender for their cause. Something that we were kind of toying with. Nothing set in stone, but just because of what this meant to us to work on, we're really open to anything. So, will the case have carbon fiber wrap? I mean, it can.
If you want it to.
Do you want it to have carbon fiber wrap? Do you want us to paint it like a banana? Because we're AVADirect, Rurudo. We can paint it to look like a banana if you really want it.
Or banana carbon wrap. I mean, whatever you want.
You see? This is why we have creatives on staff. A banana carbon wrap. It doesn't get any better. Now I want banana.
Yeah, shout out to our level 3 Travis, though, on the great work he did on this system. It's
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah.
Really good job that you did on the system.
It was fun to watch him work on it. Travis and I have had a liquid cooling rivalry ever since we started here. We started about we started about a week apart from each other, so it's fun to go back and forth and see what each of us can come up with.
So, like, anytime a hardline build comes in, you're like, my turn, and you jump in and do your thing?
we take turns and we just try and knock it out of the park.
But you built Brimstone.
I did.
You built Brimstone. And speaking of Brimstone, we now have a new hardline liquid cooled system live on our page. It is called the AMD Brimstone. AVA AMD Brimstone. Now, for those of you that are familiar with our Avalanche, same case, just black. And we wanted to do that on purpose because you have the Avalanche that's Intel based and it's like, oh, it's the plateau of gaming performance. And then you have kind of the AMD Brimstone. Set fire to anything that you want to do with it. Especially your enemies dominate the competition. Boo! All that marketing fluff, right? It's the opposite to that, okay? Now, this is a seriously high performance system that I've seen so far. Competes easily with the Intel Avalanche system because of the way that the technology is designed, being it's Ryzen based, and the way that we tweak it. All of those tubes, do you see all those tubes? Yeah, that was my man Zack right here. He did all that.
Yeah.
From concept to design to bending them.
I tried the best I could to do something different, like the tube curving around the fan and just trying to, that 45 downslope off the CPU. Like, I was just trying to differentiate the product, make it interesting.
Sure. And there were even a few times he'd get done with a bend, and he was particularly excited about that bend. So he'd just sit there and pat it, and massage it. I love my new bend.
And there was even times where I completed the bends that I was excited about, put it in, and like, no, that's not right, back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I remember I walked past your workbench and there were like 7 different bend designs just sitting there, and I'm like, oh, so you're done? And you were like, no, that's like 2 of them. That's like 2 different bends. I'm gonna try that and do this. And
yeah.
It really does take time and patience, especially when you're trying to look at it from an art form. So it is launched as of right now. And sales price for this, well, I'll say the typical price for this system is $6,800. However, in light of its launch, we are offering a sales price of $6,500. Moolah. Monies. Yeah. So that's going to be for a limited time, which we will undisclose at a later date. But for now, it's just on sale for $6,500. So pick one up while they last. And I already have a few people that were interested in getting this. So we already got the orders rolling in, and you're probably going to bend all those tubes yourself.
Yes.
Every single one. Unless you want to have Travis give it a shot, Dick. It's like a game of tube bending horse. Your turn.
I did document it, so if he wants to try.
Did you?
I did. I took
How?
pictures.
Oh, you took pictures?
Yeah.
I was thinking like you drew out like schematics, like this bend at this radius. And
Well-
it was exactly this long.
There's certain bends in there that are weird, and I don't even know what angle some of them are.
Sure.
But I definitely spared no effort in developing this system.
Double thick rim.
I want a customer to feel good when they're spending this level of money. You don't want to
of
get
course.
something that's
Dude, yeah.
half baked. So I put 100% into it, and we will put 100% into every single one that's ordered.
See, that's the difference, and I think that's where the skill level is really demanding to be a technician, at least for AVA, is you're not building the same systems over and over and over again.
Right.
You know, a lot of our competitors, what they will do is they have a hardline bend system, okay, and it's in a product line of different systems, but you know they have 4 or 5 to pick from. Sometimes they vary in coolant color. But the tubes are all the same. And what they do is they use right angle female to female fittings.
Yeah.
So all they have to worry about is making straight tubes. You measure it, you cut it, and you can adjust. It's very easy to do. And I know that because when we built our first system for the Intel Rig Challenge, we actually used copper pipe with monsoon fittings because they allowed us to adapt the copper pipe to the monsoon fittings based on the way that you had to install these plastic cuffs with UV cure. And it was the same thing. We ended up sweating the pipe because you really can't bend copper and make it look appealing. So we had 90-degree angle fittings and 45-degree angle fittings, adapters that you could mate both any cuts in the tubing with. And it was real easy. You just measure, cut, and then you'd make little adjustments, and then you'd make sure it would all fit, and then you'd sweat the pipe and call it a day. And then if you have bends that you're doing on a single run, if it's the same system over and over, they make tools that you can basically bake those tubes in an oven and replicate the same design over and over and over again, like that exists. With systems like this, you can't really do that. I mean, I'm sure we could for the Brimstone, but the problem with that is, even though the Brimstone configuration is kind of set in stone in design, if somebody comes to us and they're like, hey, I'm going to drop $7 grand on a system, I like the Brimstone, but can you do this a little different? We're not going to say no.
Very common,
Yeah,
too.
we're not going to say no. I mean, we are the one and only true custom PC builder out there. So we cater to you, not to our design. If you like our design and you want to buy it as is, great, it's there for you to use. If not, do your own thing, we'll support it. Make sure we understand what you want out of it and then go from there.
Yeah, and we're not going to shy away from complexity. Like there's tubes in that system that have 5 or 6 bends in them.
Yeah.
In
one tube.
Yeah. You got to understand, once you get past 2 bends in a tube, any slight mistake you make ruins the tube. So.
Yep. Even if, I mean, and our standards are pretty high. They have to be. So if you get like a slight wrinkle in the tube and it's behind a 90-degree bend, and normally looking at the system, you just sit back and go, oh, you can't notice that wrinkle. You're good. Nope. Throw it away.
Yeah.
Not good enough.
I know it's there and it bothers me.
I desire perfect tube bends. So for AVA news, that's all we got. Sweet Relentless Defender system and a brand new hardline liquid cooled PC.
Yes, both very awesome systems.
Yay. On to AVA gaming news. This is a good one. Belgium decides, I'm tired of your crap, EA. It's awful. Get
out of here.
EA is being investigated due to creating what Belgium considers to be illegal loot boxes. And by that I mean, well, you pay money for something that's not guaranteed.
Right.
At all. And I get the feels behind this one because of the tens of 20s of 30s of friggin', I don't know, maybe 100 even at this point, dollars I've thrown into PUBG crates just to get locks on them. With keys that you got to pay for with your money to just get the same short pink shorts over and over again. Literally.
You do look good in pink shorts though, Joe.
Oh, thanks. No, but see, and that's why like when people are complaining about EA with what they're doing with Battlefront 2, like, oh, you can pay to unlock Darth Vader. Yeah, well, at least you know what you're getting.
Right.
Like you're paying for something that is extremely straightforward. Do you want this? It's this price.
You might not like it, but at least you know.
Right, yours now. That's like if I'm going to go into a store and I want candy, And I'm like, hey, I want this candy. No, you got to give me $3 and I'll pick one for you at random. Like, no. No. So I kind of see where they're coming from. EA hasn't really responded to the claim as far as I've read and understood the story. They're not really saying anything about it at all. I mean, what do you think, Zach? Do you think that this could be the push into getting EA to stop dealing with the random loot box crap that everybody's been complaining about for like the past 3 years?
I don't know about that, because to expand on you saying that they're not responding, I think it's actually about to go to court because they're not responding. all the other companies are like, oh, okay, you know, some companies have, you know, opted to show what's in the loot box before you pay for it. Others have just removed it from the games, and EA is just like, we're not doing anything. What are you? Huh? I can't hear. Yeah. So they're just acting like nothing's going on.
Naruto says that he's played 900 hours on Overwatch and he's not touched the loot box. So I know it's all subjective. You know, it's probably... And see, what makes this situation even worse, I'm the same way, other than PUBG. My bad, bro. The biggest problem is, you know, it's like young kids buying a majority of these loot boxes. Like, right. You know it is. So there's a company like EA taking advantage of knowing those statistics and exploiting the hell out of those statistics to get monies. That's why you see companies that are starting to have games that are free to play, Fortnite. And you have games that are coming out that are like $25, $30 to start, World of Warcraft back in the day. Because they are betting on the fact that based on statistics, the kind of gamer you are and the way that they set up the game, they will get you to buy something in game. And it will make up that $60 MSRP one way or another.
I'm not so much against that, though. I hate EA's approach, though, because they charge you $60 for a game, and then there's these microtransactions for these, you know, items and whatnot.
This is true.
Boxes. To go back and answer your question, though, of whether or not I think this is the push to stop them. No.
Stop loot boxes. Oh, okay, they passed.
I don't think this is going to stop EA. We've seen the uproar time and time again, but due to the money that's still rolling in, they're not going to stop regardless of what's being said.
No.
As long as the money's there. So I don't think this is going to stop them. It might stop them in Belgium, but I don't think it's going to stop them as a whole.
Sure. Well, I mean, look what people were able to do with Battlefront 2. When people were returning their copies, their pre-orders, and requesting refunds after the fact, when it was like, hey, you're going to have to play an insane amount of game to be able to unlock Luke Skywalker, or you can buy it for $20. Like, obviously, it makes more sense because nobody's going to sit there and spend 10,000 hours working toward one character, you know? And that's just a loose example. I know that's not the actual amount of time used or the actual amount of time spent, but it got EA to do something. So yeah. We as gamers have a lot more power than we think, because we tend to feel like, based on the way that social media is structured and what makes you know, YouTube highlighted pages and what makes the news even, or what conversation of topic makes it to forum posts, that, you know, we're one voice, we're not going to do anything. And that translates into a lot of what we do, I think, as Americans. If we start to do more to affect these developers based on the way they're playing, they'll listen. I mean, they'll have no choice. It's either that or go broke. Right.
It comes back to the money. Your power's in your wallet. You can't just complain about a game and then buy it anyways. It's not, you're not helping anybody.
No, or you could, and then you're just part of the problem.
Yeah.
You.
Yes, you.
Right.
We're looking at you.
You right there. Finish chewing your Doritos, and then acknowledge. Now sip your Mountain Dew.
Yep.
Okay. So you get it? All right, good. All right, fantastic. So the next topic of discussion, Zachary.
This is a funny one. So
I am astute.
Esports is deemed too violent for the Olympics.
Oh no! Wow! Like the act of esporting is too violent, or are there certain games in esports that are too violent?
So to paraphrase what was said, essentially, killing people is unsportsmanlike, which I find hilarious because the Mr. Bach who said this has won a gold medal in fencing. So
what? What did
this feels like more like an I don't wanna do this rather than a solid reasoning. Do you feel like that maybe that's what's going on here, Joe?
It's hot garbage is what it is. So killing people in a video game is unsportsmanlike. But it's okay for NFL players to become concussed long term and then hit domestic dispute violence like after the fact. That's okay. Totally okay, but you can't virtually kill somebody in a video game. It is too violent. Look, where I stand on violence in video games is I've lived that scenario, okay? My parents let me grow up playing whatever I wanted to play because it was just a video game. And I wasn't the kind of child that I would go to school or hang out with my friends and reenact that kind of violence on another human being in any way, shape, or form. Sure, I probably watched Face Off a time or two when I was a kid and I ran around my house with a clicky pistol that I painted gold because I wanted to be Nicolas Cage. Yeah, but did I harm anybody? No. And it all comes down to the upbringing and the way you're raised. So if you feel like it's too violent, apparently this Mr. Bach fella must be the kind of guy that feels like monkey see, monkey do. Right? Is that the message behind it? Because I don't get it.
I don't know. I feel more like it's video games aren't really my thing, so I'm just gonna say it's not for any of the Olympics.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Olympics aren't my thing, but I have all the opinions on it.
Raruna has a funny point. Is Rocket League too violent? and again, that circles back to my theory that maybe they just don't like video games, and that's the only reason he was drawing the answer to this.
Dude, I guess it's like the same congressman that was trying to do the anti-gun stuff, and he gets up at the podium and he's like, This is a 30 caliber ghost gun. It's got a 40 mag per caliber clip. Magazines.
30 count magazine clip caliber.
A 30 mag clip round gun. It's a ghost gun. So yeah, and then A-Dub asked a question. We'll circle back on the hardline real quick. Sorry, A-Dub. Have you guys ever done bends in hardline for the sake of doing bends like spirals or like crazy bendy straw? Yeah. In fact, an associate of mine in support has a pen holder that he used out of a tube to do like to practice bends that spells out AVA. It's just one run, spells AVA, and he uses it to hold his pens. So
can you even see that in practice in like a previous build that we had, Scorpio.
Yeah, Scorpio was crazy spirals that we actually put into a build because we were told go crazy, do whatever. We want to see your craziest. We were thinking of adding like an little attachment to the top and then a drain to where we could have used the system as a straw if we wanted to. But there was no amount of liquid or drink on this planet that you would drink that amount of in one sitting unless like we're talking about alcoholic beverages.
This is America. You got to believe in the ultra-sized beverage.
We can have like a milk drinking challenge, like a company picnics, I suppose, with a Scorpio. Who could drink a gallon of milk the soonest?
Oh my.
No? Okay. All right. No milk for you. So back to the Olympics. Sorry for jumping off topic here, but I mean, I guess. I guess you're right, Zach. This guy just has no idea what he's talking about, and he hates video games, so.
Yeah, normally I wouldn't point these sorts of things out, but I just found this hilarious.
No, I know. You know what else I find hilarious? The fact that you try to pass off a free event to force people to pay for it, and then when they freak out, you're like, just kidding, it's free.
Yeah. Oh, guess who did that? Star Citizen with Chris Roberts.
Mr. Christopher Roberts, I am disappointed. I have followed your titles all the way through Wing Commander 5, and this is outrageous!
So they've got their yearly event where they update the backers and any fans in general on progress.
Wait. So this is an event just to let them know what's going on with the money they've already invested.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Pay money to know what's going on with the money you've given me.
Yeah.
What?
And considering that they've already raised $200 million, where do they get off doing this? His reason.
It's like Wolf on Wall Street, but video game edition.
His reasoning was there was more events planned than last year. I find that to be quite rich. Like, how many years behind is this game? 4 or 5?
What's quite rich? Him? Because apparently yes. Because I mean he's broke because he needs more money to tell you what's going on with your money.
This game is so far behind, and this is the tactics that are being resorted to.
What happened to the single player campaign? Have you followed along with like the progress
at all? That's what I backed the game for. I wanted the single player, and I figured, yeah, the multiplayer may never come out, but at least the single player will make it. Well, boy, was I wrong.
Dude, I was so close to backing it when I saw Mark Hamill was doing shots for it. I'm like, oh, Mark Hamill's getting in the suit. He's going to do this. Mocap testing. Let's go. And then he's like, oh, no, he just plays a part in it. What do you mean he plays a part? You mean he's not the protagonist? You know, Mark Hamill, Wing Commander 3 and 4, and onward in 5 project? Like, no?
Maybe in Star Citizen they just put him on an island and had him cry, just like in the movie. Episode 8, I believe.
He's like, I've served my purpose. He just disappears. You just see him on a planet and he waves. Go that way. Oh, thanks. You were very useful. I've served my purpose. And then just disappears.
So Chris later decided to retract the free and made it free for anyone who has a Star Citizen account, and he called it a learning experience.
Oh, Joe said that we did have a green Scorpio once. That's right.
Did. The Scorpio clone.
Yeah, and then Travis says he still has his throttle and joystick, hoping maybe one day. You know what, Travis? I went to a thrift store with Casey once. And as soon as I walked in, I went to like all the accessories, and she's like, well, I'm gonna go look at this stuff, but what do you, I'm like, I'm gonna go over to where like the electronics and the accessories are, because every now and then you find that one gem that you're like, I cannot believe somebody brought this here. And I specifically said, like a USB joystick, like a flight stick.
Right.
Well, what do you know? That same shopping trip, that's exactly what I found sealed in the box, a Sidewinder joystick. I was like,
nice.
So
Score.
Dude, so I took it home. I played Wing Commander 3 and 4 on it all the way through. Because I was like, oh, my childhood. Oh, oh.
Decent flight sticks go for a lot of money.
Dude, they do. And the one I had back in the day, it was like a Joytech one that had like little suction cups in the bottom. So you pick, and then it had one button on top, one button on the front, and that's it. It had 2 buttons.
They've got them now where it's like a full-on cockpit. Like you feel like you're in an F-16. You got a million buttons right here. You got your, you know, your joystick. It's got a million buttons on it. It's got your flip-up button covers.
Sorry. Yeah, there's people that I've sold PCs to in my employment with AVADirect that invested like $40,000 in like essentially a giant sphere that you get inside, and it replicates a cockpit, and it's got the compression controls that simulate the compression springs in the bottom that move it, and the hydraulics and stuff. Like, there's people that are dead serious about flight
Very awesome tech, and I mean, I know people in forums who were talking about, you know, building this kind of stuff at home because they can't necessarily afford it, just because Star Citizen got them hyped about it, and we're still waiting.
I know, still waiting. And there were people like 4 years ago that I also sold PCs to that told me that they'd spent like $4,000 on ship insurance.
What?
Ship insurance, $4,000 ship insurance. Well, okay, so it's not $4,000 for like the insurance. It was like the package. You'd kickstart $4,000 and you get all this stuff, and part of it was insurance. What that means is that all the ships that you buy prior to launch, you will have forever. If somebody pirates your ship, if somebody blows your ship up, if you lose your ship, if it breaks, whatever, you're guaranteed to keep that ship.
Yeah, you don't get the same with the game, with the ships in game, or
why?
The imaginary game.
Why? Why? It's Star Citizen, not Star Simulator. So why does it have to go like that's? And that's kind of, where do you draw the line? Like, I know you're trying to create some form of realism, so you're like, well, for real life, you got a ship, bro, and like some pirates, like, it's gone forever. There's like, you do with that. Well, but no, in real life, you're right, but this is a video game, so luckily I don't have to worry. Oh wait, what? My ship's gone? Cool, 80 hours wasted.
Maruto has a funny point about the flight simulator in the orb we were talking about. You said 40 grand. If you were to sell that to the army, you could charge 10 times more.
Right.
Not wrong, especially if you're getting towards the end of budget and they're looking to not have their budget reduced. They'll spend everything that's left.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. Yeah, I mean, I can't really confirm or deny that, but that's what I've been told. Like, here, we need to buy this shoe box. Well, these shoes, they're old shoes. There's mud on them. We don't care. $3,000. I mean, I was just going to sell them on Craigslist for $5,000. Sold. Got it. But honestly, they tried to, what they do, based on my knowledge, is if they want to make sure that they want to spend so that their budget doesn't change, they'll spend moving into the next year. So they're like, hey, we got this project we're going to be working on for the year prior, that we've been working on since the year prior, and it comes in close next year, but we have budget, so we're going to get all this stuff now, and then we'll worry about it later. I've been involved in stuff like that before. And yes, I tried to do my best.
Yay, government spending.
Government spending, very sensible. So, that is all for the topics that we have this week. I want to thank everybody for joining us, as usual, and thank you for all your questions. Please, guys, do feel free to send in the questions as much as you want.
Right.
They can be on topic, they can be off topic. Hell, you could even start a brand new discussion of topic based on one of your comments.
We're totally cool with that. We're here to relax and have fun.
Bruh. So,
What's up, bruh?
Bruh, you're talking about Superman ice cream. It takes me back. You ever had Superman ice cream?
I think once, a long time ago. I can't remember what it tastes like.
I used to have to go to a bowling alley when I was a kid just to get it, because that was the only place.
Mom, can we go to the bowling alley? I want Superman ice cream.
Mom, save me. When my dad was on a bowling league, so I just go there and be like, Papa, Superman, Papa, and you just throw a bunch of quarters in the ground and be like, go to the arcades.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. It's been a blast.
It's been a blast, yes. And we hope to see you again sometime soon, like, I don't know, next week. So signing off this week, I am Joe.
And I'm Zach.
Bye!